Megan combines her background in data engineering with ongoing studies in applied cybersecurity. Megan brings a unique perspective to data privacy and responsible AI. With that, I'll invite Megan to stage. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome to my talk, The Price of Privacy, Why Women Pay More in a Digital World. So today we're going to abandon the PowerPoint kind of format, and we're going to do this in a magazine format. So we will have to suspend our disbelief just a little bit for this. So this morning I went out and got the newest copy of Big Sister's Watching You from our very friendly Mr. Newsagent here. So let's see what this kind of magazine holds. So we have our kind of contents page. So today I will be covering femtech, social media, surveillance, tips and tricks, and image-based abuse. Now, I am the editor of this magazine, and that means I get full say over any kind of graphical design choices, so I got to use all the Canva elements that I've been wanting to use, including kind of the Bratz logo for my name there. So a little bit about me is I'm a data engineer currently at Kainos. I have a passion for kind of data privacy, data safety, and kind of women's rights kind of in general. So without further ado, let's go on to our first segment. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit on femtech. There's a brilliant talk at Halftree on femtech. I would encourage everyone to go to that as well. So what is femtech? So femtech is any kind of digital women's health. So it's like period tracking apps, pregnancy apps, any kind of symptom tracker for PCOS or endometritis. Now, this has kind of had a really big boom recently, but there's kind of a lot of issues with it. And the first is regulation. So these apps are very unregulated. Considering they're actually health apps, you know, the advice is different per app. There's no standard, it's different per country. And because it's a health issue, it really should start to have all these kind of regulations in place, especially on data use. Another issue we have is poor data protection. So there's been some breaches of kind of personal data in these apps, but kind of another way we can look at this is how our data is being used and protected in these apps. So recently Flow, which was a big contender for period tracking apps, you know, it took your kind of periods information, it took what contraceptive you were on, but underneath it was using that data and kind of selling that data to Meta, and Meta were producing ads on this data. So kind of what this looked like is we can see our ad segment here. We've seen people were getting ads about pregnancy, about trying to conceive, you know, your cycle's late, and producing kind of any pregnancy-related adverts. Now, because I research femtech, I only had to wait 2 days to actually get some real ads on it. So these are actually real ads that I was suggested on Instagram only after a day of kind of doing my research into femtech. So these kind of things are real. Even though I kind of made a cartoon aspect of it, you might begin to notice it if you are getting these type of stories. Now, the difference kind of when we're using our data for advertising. So there was an algorithm that Tesco produced that was purely based on kind of shopping data, and it was able to kind of nudge a woman to buy more pregnancy products. It was suggesting, why don't you go for nappies in your next shop? And the woman was like, oh, that's so crazy, I'm not pregnant. And then she did a test and she was. So the algorithm had known before her just based on a change in her shopping habits. However, that exact same thing happened in America, and it was Walmart who had sent out kind of nappy coupons to a teenage girl, which was intercepted by her father, and this resulted in a severe domestic incident in which the police were called to. So these are two algorithms predicting the same, using the same data, but making a decision on women's health products and advertising, and two very different outcomes. So that's why we need more regulations kind of on how we use this data and how we use it for our kind of advertising outcomes. One of the biggest issues I have kind of with kind of femtech is it's not treated as special category health. So if you go into your GP and you're talking about any issues you have, so say you've got asthma, that's personal and private between you and your GP, and there's no risk of any data leakage for that. But there's not a considering for women's health data, such as period tracking, to be that special category health. You know, it's not getting that security that it needs, and it's being used for other ways. Now, In the UK during 2025, period data was used to investigate women's knowledge about their pregnancies after stillbirths and miscarriages. So a very vulnerable moment for women when they were in the hospital after having a miscarriage and after having stillbirths. The police were allowed to come in, ask for access to their phone, ask for access into their kind of period tracker apps to interrogate them about their prior knowledge. So in these vulnerable moments, women were being interrogated using their own app data. So that's why we kind of need to be a little bit more secure with our femtech and have our regulations in place. Now, the next topic I'm going to kind of go into is social media. So we need to start considering social media as a public place. You know, I go to the park and I go to the library, I expect to have kind of safety measures in there. People might have lights after dark to improve safety. We need to have that same attitude for social media online. Now, if we have that attitude with LinkedIn, LinkedIn's a workplace. There's a certain attitude and respect that is needed on LinkedIn that women are not being afforded. So 91% of female LinkedIn users have received romantic advances or inappropriate messages at least once. This won't happen in your workplace, so why is it happening on LinkedIn? Because people are treating social media slightly differently. Now, I've highlighted 2 cases from Amnesty International. They did a report into violence against women online, and these are both workplace-related incidents as well. So the first is Zoe Quinn. So in 2013, Zoe Quinn developed a game called Depression Quest, and it got really great reviews, and it was kind of top of the charts for a while for the indie games. Now, an ex-boyfriend of Zoe Quinn went online to suggest that she'd only received these reviews because of an inferred relationship between her and developers reviewing her product, or between her and the kind of magazine outlets that were reviewing her product. And this led to mass targeting online. It led to Zoe Quinn being doxxed, which means her address was public, her social security number. It really put her in extreme danger because she was getting messages, she was getting people turning up at her house. And this attitude leaked into other kind of prominent female developers in that time. It is referred to Gamergate, if anyone wants to research kind of any further on it. But this was in 2013, and we see today that this really hasn't changed. The same attitude happening in women online and the same attitude happening in the games community towards women. Now, another case I kind of want to highlight is Diane Abbott. So Diane Abbott was the first black MP for Member of Parliament, and when the Amnesty International kind of did their research into Diane Abbott, they found that she was proportionally nearly tenfold receiving misogynistic and racial abuse compared to her peers, and even some of her peers had joined in on the abuse on social media. Diane Abbott is a keen kind of advocate for safety online. She talks about it in Parliament, but yet she is the main target. It's heads and heads above the rest of her kind of MP peers. Now, if we're looking at social media and these kind of issues that happen, what we're seeing is we're seeing mass attacks, but we're seeing zero accountability. No one is being held accountable for the spamming, the absolute kind of hate parades targeted towards women online. There's no laws that are really being active, and some people get through and some people are kind of going through the full process, but not to the amount that it is happening online. It is a digital war on women's voices because we feel they cannot speak online in case they are targeted. And these people are using anonymity as a weapon. So they're being anonymous, they're hiding behind a wall, and they're saying whatever they want because they think they'll face no kind of consequences with it. And with our kind of recent algorithms and everything, we're weaponized in being viral. So you want to be viral, you're going to say what's going to be viral. And our algorithms currently are rewarding hate. They're creating echo chambers for people to go online and view. You're not seeing different content, you're not seeing diverse views, you're just seeing kind of this whole kind of like, share for content that is meant to outrage you, because they find that people are more likely to engage with content that outrages you than kind of your funny dog videos. Now, this is a style of harassment that is designed to push women out of public spaces. You know, women don't feel safe online, they're not online. But it needs to be treated as a public space that we're being completely absent from. So we're at a tech conference today where we have women at. If that was online, we may not see that because we're completely absent from anything due to the abuse we face. And that means silence is a safety women are forced into because they don't feel safe kind of talking online. Now, the next segment kind of moves into this a wee bit. We've all kind of Googled ourselves on Google. We put our name in to see what comes up, and you might have to search through kind of a few links to see oh, okay, that's what comes up about me. Now, if I were to Google Megan Darcy, there is a more famous Australian cinemaker, so I don't come up instantly. But if there wasn't, if your name is a little bit more unique than mine, this may become quite an issue going forward. So I put in Megan Darcy and I geotagged myself to Belfast. And if I go to AI mode in Google, what happens is it gives my job title, it gives where I worked, where I studied, my previous work experience, what I received in my degree, what my degree was, what my thesis was. It says what I did at Allstate prior. It gives some student activities I was engaged in and some public speaking. Now, yes, all this data is available on LinkedIn and you can find it very easy. If you're logged in as a user, now I get that data point sometimes. If I'm a premium user, I will always get to see who views my profile. If I'm not, that data is still recorded. LinkedIn still has that data, so it's not too anonymous. However, if I were to go incognito and see what I look like on LinkedIn, you get my name and where I work. You don't get any more data points than that. You don't get my job title or any of my previous experiences. So this new AI mode is giving people intel on a plate. You don't have to take a long while to kind of surveil someone. You don't take long to get any more information on them. And the integration of AI into these kind of tech tools is being done without any safety considerations. So over here we've got meta glasses, which I have a big problem with. So there was a trend kind of last year where women were being filmed on night site. So it was tagged Manchester nightlife, London nightlife, but what was happening was these were women being filmed using meta glasses on their way home live. So people were showing their locations, common routes people took home, if they were in a group or if they were alone. And these videos often kind of encourage people to comment and rate these women, because that's what the platform was underneath. Even though it said nightlife videos, it wasn't nightlife videos, it was people trying to get home. The Manchester police had urged people to contact them because they understood the threat of kind of having this data online. And now this issue was kind of more enabled. You can see people videoing with a phone, you're a little bit more aware, but with glasses, they're so quiet, they're so kind of sleek. Everyone wears them, sunglasses or normal glasses. You wouldn't look twice if you seen someone wearing glasses. And the fact that you could easily conceal that these are recording is very kind of scary, you know. These glasses are so intrusive to everyone else except its user. You know, if you want to kind of record me, if you want to use AI glasses, I think they should look like this. You probably can't see them, but they're flashing. Thanks WKD for the awesome flashing glasses. But if you're going to record, it needs to be something silly. I want to see you and think, why are you wearing that? They must have a different use because it's not fashion. Or I want to see lots of different lights happening on it. Now, another kind of sleek, quiet piece of tech is Apple tags. So Apple tags are about this size, and they track you to a very specific location for £26. You know, you might lose your keys often, yes, stick it on your keys, but these are actually being used to surveil people. They're being put in handbags, they're being put in cars, they're being put in women's bodies without them actually realising, because they're not looking for this type of tech. In fact, I've hidden Apple tags all along this presentation because that's all they are. They're quiet, they're in the background. If you're not looking for them, you won't find them. Now, I'm just going to take a drink 1 sec. It saves me for shouting a wee bit. Now, these sort of kind of small tags, there was no women in the room going, well, why are you making this? You know, where is the danger? Why can't I know this? You know, why doesn't it make a sound every day so you can hear it? You know, in Japan, they laud that when you had mobile phones, when you take a picture, they make the clicking noise because they had an issue with people taking kind of hidden photos of people and putting them online. So we need to start making surveillance tech less sleek, less quiet to the user, and they need to be a little bit more intrusive. And this kind of moves on to the last segment of kind of the education part, which is image-based abuse. So I just want to highlight 3 stories here. So the first one is selling second-hand items. So Channel 4 did a Dispatch episode on Vinted. Vinted is a second-hand platform for selling clothes, kind of like eBay, kind of like Depop, Facebook Marketplace. But what was happening on Vinted was there was a group of people screenshotting women wearing their clothes and uploading them to a very misogynistic site. I will not say the name of the site, but it is still up because Finted has washed their hands of this issue. Finted have said, well, it's not us screenshotting these images and putting them online. It's got nothing to do with us. Yet these women are being sent messages on Finted that are like, do you realise your images are on this website where people are rating you? They have no one to go to. They go to the police, and the police were like, well, you have to take it up with Finted. And Finted were like, well, it's nothing to do with us. If this issue is happening on Finted, what they can do is they can disable screenshots. You know, it's not that much if you're going to share your clothes to show with a friend, should I get this, should I not, to just put a link in and it brings you to the app. They need to disable screenshotting because the amount of people on this website that don't know they're on it and are kind of trying to get their images down, but it keeps getting re-uploaded. It's a real issue. And then another story I want to highlight is so we got Cara Hunter here, who was very vocal about a deepfake image that was made of her. Now, she talks about it in Parliament, she's a real advocate for it, yet the creator of this deepfake has not been found. The most vocal person who's advocating for policy change, the police cannot find who actually created these images. The perpetrators are so silent, and it's so hard to track that this is going to be our main issue going forward. And when it's not just individuals, we have masses doing it, that makes it even harder. So we've seen a trend recently in the summer where Exit blocked searches for Taylor Swift after people had created explicit AI images of her. So people had told the AI to undress Taylor Swift, and people were putting these on Twitter. Twitter didn't really do a lot to remove these images. It blocked the search of them, but its content is still up there. If you know what to search, you'll still get these images. So if you're public facing in any sort of way and you have any image online, this is what can happen your image. Now, what is the intersection between all of these people? You know, what is it to be targeted of a deepfake? Unfortunately for women, it is just existing. You know, it's not that hard to be targeted for a deepfake, especially on the App Store and Play Store, where over 86 apps exist that have the functionality to do any of the things I just mentioned. You've got undress apps and you've got face swap apps. So face swap generators exist for high definition. People are using them to create nudes of people and to face swap. Now, the most concerning thing about this is for as little as £2 or £3 on these apps, you can pay to remove a watermark. So people who are having these images made of them, they can't even really say that's AI because there's no watermarks. People are like, well, if it was AI, you'll see a watermark, or you'll see some of the four fingers, etc. with it. Not today, not with the advancement that we have of this technology. And Google Store and App Store are not doing enough to remove these apps or remove any violations that they're doing. You know, there was a face swap app that was re-uploaded just with an extra P at the end of swap, and that still got through any of the metrics. There's statistics that show 1 in 17 teenagers have faced deepfake abuse going forward. It is certainly going to be a lot more of an issue for the younger generation coming forward with this technology, and there's not enough regulation in place for this. Now, I know it sounds scary, and it's I've hit a lot of people with a lot of information there, but there are some tips and tricks to avoid this or protect ourselves. We can't wait for regulation. When regulation comes in, it's going to be slow, and it still may not be enough to protect us. So unfortunately, we have to take measures into our own hands for protection. Now, some of these tips are fun, some of them are a bit boring. Some of them might make you go out of your way a little bit more. So choose to implement what you want, but you don't have to implement everything. The first one is a boring tip. So this is use multiple addresses. So if you've got any government data, you've got bank, you've got health, get that to your address because you'll need to prove your location if you're doing an access and I check. So it's always important to have your real address for important documents. However, for deliveries, use a post office, Centra, Spar, Co-op, any of the local delivery drops. You may not know it, but if you're ordering anything off Vinted, eBay, yes, your address is concealed until the point where it's posted and you get a return receipt that has your that has your address on it. So if you're worried about people having your address, just get it to a post office. It's a little bit more safer. Yes, it's out of your way. You don't have to do it with everything. But if you are selling something or buying secondhand, it's one of the protections. And then if you're doing free stuff, loyalty cards or surveys, put in your fake address data because we can't trust companies to keep all our data stuff safe. Breaches happen, leakages happen. People accidentally don't blind copy on an email. So what we have to do with that is give fake address, give your real postcode if you want, because that's what people actually use for analytics on it. Now, my next tip is fun. So I want everyone to get that free tote, and that could be free pen, notebook, Switch 2, or Lego Millennium Falcon. When you're giving your details for these prizes, give fake details, create a different persona, give your right email address though, because you do want to get contacted. Or if you just have to show a screen with a little tick on it, give them all fake information. They don't need your information for that pen. It is not that valuable. Your information is not as valuable as a pen to them. So get what you need, but give a little bit of fake data in it. Now, this is my favorite tip: birthday treats all year round. Your birthday is really important data. So in Northern Ireland, really, really small, 2 million people. Your name, your surname, and your birthday is probably enough to uniquely identify you. So you need to kind of be a little bit more secure and secretive with that data. And people use it as pins. You know, they get around it by going, I'm using my partner's pin, or I'm using my mum's birthday for it. That still is data that can be easily found. So what we're going to do is when we're signing up for loyalty cards, we're going to give different birth dates. That means you're spreading birthday treats all year round. I like Greg's, I like pumpkin spice. I'm going to put my birthday down in autumn so I can claim that. Hotel chocolate, £5 off. I'll get that at Christmas time and I'll take it on hot chocolate. If we're spreading fake birthdays across, it means we get a treat every month. And you're more likely to redeem them, you know. You can look forward to what you get. And it keeps your birthday secure. It keeps them guessing as well. How to choose a pin. Please forget that birthday. I know it's very easy to go, oh gosh, this app's asking me for a pin. Easy 6 digits, easy 5 digits, easy 4 digits. But it is really secure data that is kind of out there sometimes. LinkedIn might say your birthday to people. Facebook might say your birthday. So if you kind of struggle with remembering pins, you can use mnemonics. Now, for my exams in the South, I had to learn pi off because we didn't get it. And one of the ways we learned pi off was, may I have a large cup of coffee? So may is 3, I is 1, have is 4. Make up a fun sentence, and sure, you can write it in your Post-its app, or you can send it to someone, because no one's going to know that's a mnemonic for one of your pins. The next kind of tip we have is check app perms. So go into your settings, scroll through your apps, and just check these few permissions. So I want you to check location, always on when it's on the app. Listening, does it have access to your microphone when it has access to your microphone? Photos, can it access your camera? Can it access your gallery? Turn them off if you don't recognize the app. Turn them off if you don't use the app. You can always turn them back on. You're not losing anything. And because we're at a tech conference, I assume everyone's a bit tech literate, we need to go home and do this for our kids, our parents, and our grandparents. It takes 10 minutes, do it every few months just to be sure or just to check. Now, if we don't know what an app does or kind of the dangers of an app, there's a really great website called Privacy Not Included, and it lets you research an app. So this was last updated in 2024, but the makeup of apps on your phone don't change. You've got Facebook, you've got WhatsApp. There's not a lot of big hitters that come onto the scene instantly since then that don't have a review up for them. So if you put your app in, it goes, can it snoop on me? So what accesses it has in your kind of settings? What can be used to sign up? So do you need your email? Can you use Facebook, etc. for it? And what data does this company collect? So you see your personal data, any body related and social. Now the most important part is it says, how does this company use this data? So it includes the marketing partners of this company. So with this app, I can see it includes Google, Twitter, LinkedIn, Spotify. So I can see where my data is informing decisions on other apps. Now, the best thing about this is you can just go on for a dander and search through the apps for it. You can search them creepiest, most to least, so you can kind of see different privacy breaches other apps have had in the past. It's a really great place to kind of go to privacy literacy and improve kind of our vocabulary around it. I often go check it to see, well, how do I describe this thing? And it will describe it a lot better than I can. Now, one of the kind of tips I give at every kind of talk I do is accept cookies. Cookies sound sweet. I love cookies. It's one of my favorite things. You know, yes, I love cookies. I'll accept them. I'll take them. If we replace the word with cookies with surveillance trackers, I don't think we'd accept them just as quick, you know. Accept surveillance tracker. Oh, please, can we surveil track you on this website? People will be like, oh, hang on. I don't really want you to do that. So what we're going to say is no to cookies. We're just going to reject it because you're still going to get the website. You know, we don't need cookies to access any resources. Now, there is a certain trend where it says pay to reject cookies. Click that and you'll discover the infrastructure is not really implemented for that. It's a grey zone at the minute for do people have the right to fully reject. So you'll see people are taking the chance by having it implemented early as another way to nudge you to accept cookies. And if it does make you pay, just go back to your cookies, hit essential only. You know, it's not going to be go stone cold turkey on cookies completely, because it's very hard to all the time. But we must say no to cookies. Now, the next one is get silly with security questions. So, information leakage happens online because we've been online for so long. I put up a Facebook post that says, can't believe I'm back where I was born 20 years on. That's the answer to where were you born. Oh, look at me in primary school. That's the answer to your primary school. Oh, I can't believe it's 20 years since my first dog. It looks exactly like my first dog's name. They're all answers to your security questions, and we can't constantly be turned on, oh, did I use that for a security question? So what we're going to do is we're going to just get silly and create a different story. So hello, my mum's name is Claus. That's her maiden name. Yes, I was born in the North Pole. I went to elf school. My first pet's name was Rudolph. Because it's all fake, it's less likely for you to leak it online, and no one's going to guess what type of persona you choose. Now, security questions are still implemented in some services. We kind of moved on to other multi-factor kind of authentication ways, but it still exists. So if you're doing any security questions in future, just pick your favorite character in a book and go along with it. Now, I mentioned earlier kind of Google with AI. If I Google my name, it comes up with results. We can't stop that happening, but what we can do is create an alert. So if we Google alerts, what we'll get is an option to kind of get an inbox notification for how many people searched a term. So that term can be your name, it could be your workplace, it could be anything you're really interested in. And you can geolocate it, so you choose what part of the world you want to see info from. I can choose UK with just my name, so I'm not getting the Australian Megan Darcy's filmmaker searches for it, which makes it much more likely, because no one's going to Google Megan Darcy Belfast, they might just Google my name if they're looking for me in Belfast. But you'll get an email summary at the end of the week with people and what they have Googled for it. Now, this is my last tip, to limit live photos and updates. So if you're at a place and you're posting live, give it half an hour, because you don't know who's seeing that content, you don't know if anyone has a malicious intent, just kind of like in hacking, we need to treat malicious actors that they're constantly out there. What we can do is just post it later, especially with the kind of advent of Instagram swapping from having that one post, which was kind of more live, to doing photo dumps. So we became more of a photo dump kind of community online, and that's a great way to be. Now, because I was the editor of this magazine, I have chosen to kind of end on a really cute photo of me, but you do not have to throw back that far, you know. You don't have to be 2 weeks late, and you certainly don't have to be 20 years late on posting stuff. Now, that comes to the end of kind of my magazine segment. So because I read it all in front of you, unfortunately I have to pay. And in today's economy, data is a great way to pay because it is valuable and it's valuable to other people. So I'll settle it with Mr. Newsagent guy here. You know, he's looking for health data, he's looking for what I had for lunch, he's looking for step count, the last concert you went to. So these are all very important information, but it's valuable to them, so I may as well use it as a currency and put something in my field. Now, thank you everyone for coming to my talk. I have a LinkedIn of some of the resources I used. Sorry, I have a link tree of the resources I used. My LinkedIn's on there. Don't connect with me if you want to send a romantic advance. You will be ignored. But it has any of the other links I mentioned and kind of some of the resources from Amnesty International. I know it's break time, so I didn't want to do questions just before break, but if anyone does have questions, come find me. I won't stand in the way of a tech community and some 15s. So thanks everyone for coming to my talk.